Hi everyone, I'll just take a moment to set up my Instagram also and then we move ahead. I am live through Zoom and not through Facebook, so I may not be able to answer your questions, but I'm still going to check towards the end of the video, okay? Okay, so we are live on Facebook, live on Instagram, and I'm live on Facebook through Zoom because I have to work through different streams and different interfaces. So here, this is Instagram. I'm live here. Hi, Hetvi. Hello. And hello, people on Facebook. I may not be able to read your comments on Facebook because, I'm live through Zoom. So I'll just go and see if I can visualize, see the questions towards the end. Okay, so we go ahead with what I spoke about yesterday, that in the poster I mentioned that we all come from somewhere or the other a position of being a helper. We do want to help people. For facilitators and healers, therapists, professionals who constantly work with people, um, to be able to help and to offer that as a service becomes way more important, because that's what you do on a day-to-day basis, on a daily in your daily life, right? But then many of us also go through disappointment, we go through burnout, we go through feelings where we want to help but we cannot help, or feelings where they don't receive our help, and then we end up feeling frustrated because they are not receiving the help that we are offering them. A lot of things. And in the process, what happens is, between the person who helps, the helper in any capacity, and the person who receives the help or is being given to or is directed towards, there is always an energetic association, energetic cord that forms between you and the other person. Okay. And what happens as a result of the formation of this cord, you constantly, as a helper, also happen to carry feelings of the other person who you wanted to help. Let us say, to make it concise, let us say the energetic cord between a healer and a client, a seeker. So we don't know how much the seeker has sought your help. We also don't know how much the seeker has been able to take your help, receive it. But at the same point of time, you are the person who has gone ahead and done it. Okay. And you are the person who carries different emotions about the other person. Either you feel very good about helping this person and you want to do more, you want to do a lot, and you want to make them feel better, or you are frustrated or irritated about the fact that they are not receiving as much as you are giving. They are not making as much progress as you want them to make. They are not moving at the rate and the passion in which you move when you help them and you work with them. So in either of the cases, you are feeling good about doing it, or you are feeling bad or irritated, frustrated about it not happening in the way you want it to happen, right? In either of the cases, there is an agreement, or there is an alignment, or there is a rejection, right? And in in all of these cases, you are automatically forming a cord with the other person, with the seeker, with the person who comes to you for help, with the person you want to help, with the person who is in the position of receiving that help, right? So, and then I have also seen, including myself, that we all go through severe amount of burnout in that case, right? And we also go through irritation, frustration. We go through difficult feelings, which sometimes we feel that, we can't process because they are not ours, they belong to someone else's. But then we also obsessively follow that, because then we also want to deliver what we deliver. Sometimes we also want to prove our point. That is also we want to help. Sometimes also we truly genuinely want the goodness for the other person, but at the same point of time we find it very difficult when they don't make the kind of progress we want them to make. Okay, so now therefore there will always be certain hidden dynamics in the position of the helper and in the profession of being a helper. And these hidden dynamics will govern how much help are they getting and how much help are we capable of giving or should give or must give. Okay. So there are a few orders of helping, and these orders are important because these orders will determine what is the balance between giving and receiving, what is the balance between helping and the other person receiving help. If there is an imbalance in this order, what will happen is either you will feel highly overwhelmed, or you will feel that you haven't given enough, or you will feel that you do give enough, but then the other person is not appreciating it, honoring it, responding it, taking it. All these things will come up. And then you are the one who will carry all of those anger, frustration, and irritation. So the first order of help. Number one, I have made the points here. We can only give what we have. We can only take what we need. So many times we try to give what we don't have. For example, even in the case of parents and children, I give this example, although I would not bring in parents and children in the dynamics of helping, but it's an example that I give. That whatever parents have received from their parents, they will only be able to give their children that. They will not be able to give their children what they haven't received or haven't known. Similarly, what I perceive of love, assistance, care, whatever I know of it, I can only give that, right? I cannot give something that I have not experienced or I have not known or I don't have, isn't it? So you can only give what you have. So think about what is it that you have and where are those places where you don't have, but you are still trying to give what you don't have, and acknowledge it when you don't have. Because many times we want to feel good about being able to give, so we try a lot in also giving what we don't have. So do you have the ability and the courage to also acknowledge that XYZ things are not there with me, I don't have it to give? That's the first point. And secondly, we can only take what we need. Okay, we cannot take what we don't need. We cannot take what is below our needs. We also cannot take what is beyond our needs. So what is your need? And what governs your need? Is your need governed by certain external factors? Is your need governed by the fact that if they keep giving me, that is when I'm able to appreciate them? Is your need governed by the fact that they have XYZ, hence I must also have XYZ? So what is your need? And ask yourself that if I am asking less than I need, what is making me do that? And if I'm asking more than what I need, then what is making me do that? So first order is we can only give what we have, and we can only take what we need. Simple. Going to the second order, okay? So when we help, as helpers, when we offer help, many times as helper, we also want to help the other person in such a way that we want to propel, motivate, push the other person in such a manner that whatever circumstances the person is in, or whatever destiny or fate the person that has come with, we try our best to move the person ahead of that, okay? So my question is that, do we agree to the person's destiny as it is? And do we take the destiny and the circumstances along, as in when we help? Or is it that the individual happens to be our primary focus, and I am not giving any respect to the person's circumstances and destiny? So please understand, I always tell people that the person in the receiving position will receive and seek and change as much as they can change. Your pushing or your propelling is not going to do an extra bit. Even in the healing profession, I say that people will heal themselves as much as they can and are willing to heal, consciously and unconsciously. Your pushing is not going to create extra step, extra effort. Of course, that does not discount your skill. That does not discount your intention, as well as the kind of interventions you are making. They are great. But then it also depends on the receiving ability of the other person. And the receiving ability of the other person should be respected. It should not be looked down, because everyone will have their own way of receiving. So even if you're offering help, the person has their own destiny, their fate and circumstances, and they will only make a movement towards healing and seeking help as much as their destiny and circumstances allow them. So while you are working with someone or helping them, have respect for that also. Such kind of help on your part is restrained, but there is a lot of strength in it, because you are carrying a lot of things along with the person and not necessarily propelling and pushing the person, to a direction without taking other circumstances into considerations, right? So coming to the third order, and the third order is very simple: adult to adult. So many times when we are helping the other person, we think of us as greater, superior, more knowledgeable. Sometimes there is a great tendency for us to put us in a position where we need to be higher than the other person. And the other person could be anyone. It could be a client, it could be a friend, it could even be a lover, it could be, excuse me, it could be someone who happens to be, let's say, someone who works with you. And because we also feel that the other person doesn't know as much as you do. And that is when there is an imbalance, because it is not an adult to adult relationship. Especially as healers and therapists and facilitators, you need to have an adult to adult relationship with your client. Otherwise, what you project is also going to be sensed by the other person, meaning the client will also sense it and automatically put you in the position of a parent, and they will automatically put themselves in the position of a child. And if that happens, your work, I'm sorry, but your work is destined to fail, because then you are no longer in a facilitator and seeker relationship, or therapist client relationship, or helper and the one being helped relationship. Then the relationship becomes more child and parent. It's no longer an adult relationship. And a relationship that is not equal, which is not adult to adult, will have its own set of difficulties, because one is then reaching out as a child and the other is then automatically gains the position of a parent. So that is difficult, because you can be a parent to your child, or you can be a child to your parent. None of those positions can be given to anyone else or be acquired by someone else, right? So the fourth order is your help to the person you want to help has to be less personal and more systemic. Meaning that when we are helping an individual, we try to understand the individual's problem at an individual level. But at the same point of time, the individual is also a part of a system, wherein the individual has a mother, father, is working in an organization, has colleagues, has friends, has grandparents, and all of these people cast an effect on the individual, wherein they are in the position of a seeker. So many times what may happen is you may feel sympathetic to the person you are helping so much that you only try and identify with their victim position, because of which sometimes we discount, disacknowledge, cut off, disconnect other influences, and we also cut off those parts which we identify as bad. For example, if I'm working with a survivor of abuse, my sympathies, of course, are towards the person who has gone through the experience. But am I discounting the abuser in this case? Am I discounting the people who were involved? Am I identifying so much with the victim that I'm unable to also see the perspective of the perpetrator? If I have done that as a therapist, healer, or a facilitator, I'm already identifying with the victim, because then I cannot look at it systemically. I can only look at it personally. My approach is personal at that moment. And when the approach becomes personal, it also becomes limited. Then we cannot have a larger view of the system. So we have to look at the larger system. People who have contributed, people who are involved, people who are in the position of perpetrators, what is behind the perpetrators that have put them in the position of the perpetrator. Do I truly need to identify with the victim? What do I need to look at it as a whole system and not take it personally? Most of us take it personally and also give personal viewpoints, because of course we are human beings and we have our own personal experience which have contributed a lot to us being in this state as of today. Like if we are a therapist or a facilitator or a healer, all of us have gone through our own personal set of experiences to be here. And we value those experiences. And sometimes we use parts of those experiences to also educate people who come to us for help. But then in doing so, there is also a limit. And sometimes we overdo it. And when we overdo it, then our approach to our client also becomes way more personal. Our approach to the other person whom we want to help becomes more personal. It is no longer systemic, because then we are looking at the person through the lens with which we look at our miseries and our sufferings and our loss. It's very individualistic in nature. Then we do not have the systemic lens to look at them as a whole, as a part of a larger group, as a part of a larger fate, as a part of a larger soul. And that needs practicing. In my family constellation classes, I talk about a concept called systemic phenomenology. And systemic phenomenology means allowing things to be the way they are and let people carry what they need to carry and what they are meant to carry. I cannot carry on someone else's behalf, or I cannot take responsibility of people who have relinquished them, and I'm carrying it on their behalf. So when I do that, my attitude towards the person who I want to help becomes limited, constrained, personal. But when I also allow things to be the way they are, I look at the person, I have connection with the person, but I also bring in people in the system who have faced, let's say, exclusion, who need to be included in order to resolve the issue. For example, it is not possible to resolve someone's issue in their relationship without truly bringing in the understanding of how their mother and father have played a role in their life, right? Or what has been the relationship between the mother and father. It is also difficult, let's say, to resolve a money related issue without understanding that what has been the outlook or point of view about finances and money in the whole family. It is difficult to deal with addiction, though addiction is considered as an individual issue. It is difficult to deal with addiction without bringing in an understanding of the fact that what is it in there in the family that this individual is trying to fill up. What empty space resides in the whole family that this individual is trying to fill up. So what I'm trying to say, that in any profession, not necessarily in the profession of a therapist, in any profession, whether you work with a company, whether you are the owner of one, whether you are a medical doctor, whether you are a therapist, someone who works with people as a whole, every time when we look at helping others or being there for them, we also have to look at their problems from a systemic point of view. We cannot only look at from an individual perspective. And worse, we also can't identify with their problems, because then those problems do not remain their problems. They become our problems. And then we only end up looking at their life through the lens with which we look at our lives. And we feel that by allowing this person to raise up from the problem, go ahead of the problem, we will somehow redeem our own suffering. And that's not true, because your suffering belongs to you. Of course, the other person can be a reflection of your suffering, but then they moving out of their suffering in no way means that you have redeemed yourself or your suffering has ended. You have to take responsibility of your own suffering and help them from a less personal space, a more systemic and holistic space. Okay, and that brings us to the fifth order of helping, and that is allowing things as is. Many of us can't do that. I already spoke in the previous order, and the previous order and this order is a bit interconnected. We don't allow things as is. We are always in the habit of doing. So even in the helping profession, and when we want to help others, we always want to do, and we always expect them also to do. For example, do this, do that. Let's say, people go through a therapy session, and then they jump onto something else and do that because they feel that is also going to help. And then they jump onto something else because that is also going to help. An example can be, someone going through a therapy session and suddenly going and figuring out that, no, I need the other form of work also, so I'm tomorrow going to do it. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying that the pace and the rate at which you do. And suddenly you jump into another, bandwagon where you feel that, a reading is going to help me. And then from there, you move on to something else. So you are always in the doing and not in the knowing. So what you did in the very beginning as a healing doesn't stay with you. Similarly, for people who want to help, want to do so much that they also want to question the things as is. Somewhere we as helper do not have respect, honor, and appreciation of the fact that the person who is seeking help from us, the person who may be our client, the person who may be our friend, will also have to learn to be in it, embrace it. That is when things will improve, because people also need time in order to heal. People also need to, first of all, accept the way the things are. Only then things will slowly change. So from doing, we also have to come to the knowing. So many times I say that, okay, I've helped you so far here. Now let us leave it and let us leave the things as is. And then when we see a movement, when we see a shift, slowly we will take the next step. So to be able to leave things the way it is, as is also an important aspect of helping. So these were the orders of helping and the dynamics by which a helper should function. And that is how appropriate and adequate amount of help can be given as well as received. I think I have a question here. So we often feel drained when constantly help others. Why does that happen? Shouldn't helping others feel nourishing? So I'm going to keep a recording of this video. And in the very beginning of this video, I have spoken about it, that we can only give what we have and we cannot give more than that. And we can only take what we need. We cannot take more than that or less than that, right? So look up in that order. The answer to your question is in that order, okay? I'm going to look up Facebook if there are people who have, because I can't see the comments since it's on Zoom. So I'm going to look up my Facebook Live and see if there are questions there. I think for Instagram, I can end it here because I don't seem to have any more questions. Thank you, people, for joining in. And I can end it here. Thank you. Okay, I also don't have many questions here. So I believe that I can stop it here, although I'm going to check it out. Okay, I do have a question. Does helping others redeem our own suffering, your own karma? Well, what is the intention behind the help? Is the intention that, I want to help because I want to help, or I want to help because I want to redeem my own suffering? Taking someone else's suffering on your shoulder is never going to, let's say surrogate suffering, is never going to redeem anything. Nothing. It is only going to make your miseries stronger, actually, to be truthful. So that would be my answer. I don't have any more questions, so I will end the Facebook Live here. Thank you all for joining in. Facebook and recorded. I haven't answered any of your questions. I'm sorry because I'm unable to see the comments since I'm working through Zoom. Okay, thank you so much.